Give him a sec to catch up.
Yes. All right, great. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the DCC Dying Earth Countdown Show. We're just about an hour out from the end of the Kickstarter, and we just wanted to hang out with you guys. And, we would have been doing this anyway, watching the final countdown and just have some company with it. So maybe we can start by introducing ourselves. I'm Joseph Goodman of Goodman Games, and I'm going to pass it in the order that it's on my Zoom screen because it changes every time for everybody, but I'll pass it to Bob to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Bob Brinkman. I'm one of the writers on the team.
Julian, you want to go next?
Me?
No, the other Julian.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't think that was the order. No, I'm good. I'm Julian. Hello. I'm Julian. I'm a writer on the team also, and very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Twitch on. It's going to be a good night.
Good. Jen, you're next.
For those who haven't already, had their fill of me over the past month, especially, I'm Jen Brinkman. I am the main editor for the DCC Dying Earth line, and they've been very gracious in letting me play along.
You deserve to play along. Mark, you're next.
Hi, I'm Mark Bruner. I'm a writer on the team also, and just super excited about how well the Kickstarter is doing, and happy to see where we get to tonight.
And Mark led this whole thing. He's the master brain behind our Dying Earth project. And then Errol, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Errol Otis, and I did some artwork for this fantastic project.
He may have done a little other artwork too. Some
other artwork, yes, for other things.
Okay. So hi everybody in the chat. I figured I'd start by just kind of recapping a few reminders and stretch goals and stuff, and after that we can just chit chat and go from there. But as a reminder, we have the Magician cover, which is really cool looking, painted by San Julian. It'll be a limited run on the DCC core rulebook, and that's an add-on for this project. So please add it on now during the project as opposed to later. I have to actually tell the printer how many to print. So if you guys add 500, I'm going to print 500. If you add 1,000, I'm going to print 1,000. And we always do a little bit extra because some of these shipments get lost or destroyed in the mail or whatever. Like padding. And if any of the padding numbers are left over at the end because the post office did a good job, then those copies will be offered for sale. But please don't assume that we'll have more later or others to add on later on, because soon after this Kickstarter ends, I'll be asking the printer to start printing stuff.
And that means don't wait until the backer kit phase of this, the pledge manager. Do it now, or you will be sad.
Yes.
Sad.
Yes. There are some people who seem to have, Kickstarter seems to be buggy with add-ons. So like for the people who are having trouble getting the add-ons to work, like they'll be first in line to get any leftover copies. But yeah, like Jen said, please don't assume you can grab some later. And then stretch goals, there's so many of them. Maybe we should do like a round robin where we each read one line. It's hard to keep up.
Assuming we're all on the same page.
Yeah, you're right. Hold on, let me go. I'm just gonna sort of say them out loud so you can all tell your friends the crazy value. But we have more spells, more curses, more patrons, and more artifacts. Which is another way of saying that Bob, Julian, Mark, and Jen, and Terry, who's joining later, will have a lot of work to do to come up with all this stuff. A judge's screen, 100 adventure hooks, NPC stats, and I think some of you guys wanted to set up. What's a famous NPC you might set up?
Well, yeah, go ahead, Julian. You got this.
Turgeon.
I mean, Kugel.
Yeah, that's where my brain went, right? Kugel.
Rialto.
Maybe Chun.
Hashmonkor.
Whoa, good pronunciation.
Yukinu.
Yeah, there were so many, like we had this internal discussion and there were so many just really cool possibilities. So we'll probably be statting up all those guys. Monster Ecology and Layers, the Art Folio, Supplemental Art, the Sandestin and Demon Folio. Mark, I think the Sandestin part was your idea to do a folio of those guys.
Yeah, I think it was coupled with Julian's idea to do demons for the witches, and the idea being that both of those are sort of like new things for players, compared to familiars in DCC, but also similar, and so just coming up with some, like, we also have the Sanderson names in the core books, so we have like a table of of random names, and we thought it'd be just kind of cool to integrate those things and pick a few examples of Sandersons and build them out for players to kind of like get examples of how they could play them in their campaigns.
Yeah. And actually, to address one question in the chat from Mr. Black Hat, yeah, if you can't get the add-on option to work, there's a little, I think Kickstarter's a little buggy. First, make sure you're pledging for print because it's not only for print. Then if it still doesn't work, try a different browser. So if you got, Safari open, try Google Chrome. If it still doesn't work, clear all your cookies, clear the cache. And then if it still doesn't work, maybe pray. We don't have any options past that, or submit a bug report to Kickstarter. But hopefully it works. Then we have the Magician's Manses stretch goal, and the fans actually selected, what was it? What was the final answer? Yasmain the Obviator, remember me right?
Yeah.
And his power was, what was it?
He harvests the dust from dwarf stars.
Dying stars, dwarf stars, yeah.
And then he had in his mance, he keeps that dust around to make into objects, at his command. So that'll be kind of fun. That'll be an example of a mance that we can, because the magician mances are all unique and they're all really proud of them in the books. And that's sort of like kind of a fun thing for us to stat out is locations, that people can, encounter, or even if they're like a lot of the stories are kind of kicked off by, well, Kugel wants to go and, rob the magician. So this kind of gives a place for that to happen too. So.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. We did a book for the Lakemar project that was just locations, but it was really cool seeing the maps and this will have more stats to do with it, but it was just really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got
for the add-ons, if they absolutely can't get it to work and they want to lock it in before the end of, well, say the next hour, would it be okay if they just bumped their pledge up by 60 and maybe dropped an email to us?
No, that's great. Actually, bump the pledge up and then send us a message on Kickstarter, because that actually, the way Kickstarter works, we see it right beside your pledge. And cool. That way, great reminder, when I send the printer, the number will be 512 because we had 12 people with buggy Kickstarter systems or whatever it might be. Yeah, good call. Joan, I love your comment. That was Daniel Bishop. Yeah, we actually shipped him to Spain. Had him pose for San Julian.
He was so cranky. You really should have put air holes in the box, Joseph. You should have sprung for the air holes.
Yeah. Then we also have the spell Librams or Librams. Do we have to have a pronunciation debate again? I say Librams. Okay.
Librams.
Okay, we have spell Librams. Jen, that was your idea. Do you want to tell them about that? Because that was a cool idea.
Well, every magician starts with a base of X number of spells that they get, as this is what you know. And instead of just having a table in the book, I was like, why don't we just put the Librams together? And that way, here, you have Fandol's book. So it's just kind of
cool.
You can thank Purple Sorcerer for that idea, because they're the ones that got us used to printing out the spell books for all of our characters at conventions and whatnot.
Yeah, good call, actually. Thanks, John Marr, for the inspiration.
Yes.
You spoiled us.
Yeah. And then we have, let's see, the Wizardly Objurgation tables. Hey, Mark, what is Wizardly Objurgation?
So there's this concept that we came up with for the game that, in the books and in DCC too, but spells are this sort of like precious knowledge that's it's hoarded, right? You have the magicians like Mazarin who collects spells and he steals them from other magicians and tortures other magicians, in fact, to get their knowledge. And this idea of, well, these spells have originators, that basically people who created them initially, the people who wrested magic into its form. And so instead of spell failure, instead of misfires, where the traditional misfire could result in, like a miscasting, there's that traditional DCC sense. Objurgations is this idea that, the spell creator is in some way incensed, that your malapropism or your the way that you effectuated the spell is just, goes against the grain of what the magic was created for. And so these objurgations are sort of the wizardly, creator of these spells sort of stepping in and, essentially putting like a magical curse on the magician when the spell failure occurs. And so we have a table of sort of generic objurgations, which is something that you'd roll if you get one of these failures. But the idea is really, encouraging judges to come up with specific tables for specific creators of spells. Like, and what we're going to do is create those tables for some of the more historical, well-known magicians like Fandal and Pandaloom. So that there's, if there's a spell that one of them created, you can go to that table and, roll on the objurgation.
That's awesome. It'll feel just like you're reading a Jack Vance novel, but at the table doing it in a game. That's cool. Then we have new adventures. Julian, you're the one behind the Great Visp Hunt. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I've a few people have actually played an early version of this already. I run it I think at Gary Con last year and at the spring. Was it the first Cyclops Con in the spring last year? Maybe. Anyway, something like that. Boy, it's all a blur, the COVID era. But at any rate, I have run that a few times, and it's currently a level 2 adventure, and it concerns the exploits of a band of adventurers who are taken upon themselves upon seeing some advertisements to seek out the hunting of a visp, as they are summoned to do by a magician or two, and that's kind of it. So they have adventures. It has a little bit of a wilderness feel to it. They are going to travel along a path, find some Vancian villagers, and if they get really lucky, they may also find a visp somewhere in the adventure. So that's there's a visp in there somewhere, as well as some skullduggery and some. It's a little bit of, instead of a dungeon crawl, I wanted to do a little bit of a picaresque, Kugel-ish kind of feel to it. So it's a little bit like that.
That sounds great. Well, all the backers, you guys are all going to get that, which is awesome. And actually, let me answer a couple more questions from the chat. It sounds like George Straighten is the add-on system in Kickstarter is not necessarily working. Just to repeat something that Jen asked earlier, which is a great point. If you try to do the add-ons and it doesn't work, first try a different web browser, refresh your cache. If none of this works, make sure you're a print backer, because you have to be a print backer. If it still doesn't work, just add the $60 to your pledge and shoot us a message in Kickstarter saying, hey, I added $60, it's for this. And we'll make sure to cover that in the print run. And then somewhere down the road, we'll figure out the pledge manager to make sure you get it. Now, going through these stretch goals even more, Bob, you're writing Phantoms of the Ectoplasmic Cotillion. I love how you work in so many elegant words into the titles.
Well, I wanted to do a Vancian ghost story, right? A Dying Earth Geist story. So it will take place essentially mid travel. So the idea is that the adventure can stand alone, or you can use it between adventures as the party is going from one place to another. And sometimes those empty ruins aren't as vacant as they seem, and sometimes those occupants have thoughts of their own about those that are going to trespass uninvited.
Sounds good. It'll be hard to decide which adventures to run first. I mean, there's 6 to start with, then all these.
My original proposal was that Chun the Avoidable would be in every adventure, and every adventure, all the PCs would just get killed by Chun the Unavoidable. But that was 86th.
You have my backing on that, Julian.
It was maybe too predictable,
Yeah, maybe too predictable. Yeah.
Still would have great purity of thought though behind it, which I would like.
Well, maybe that could be, our second Kickstarter. So then one of our other stretch goals was Errol Otis agreed to write a DCC adventure module and illustrate it, at least in terms of doing a cover and then a frontispiece. Errol, maybe tell us what you've been thinking about.
Well, I am in the early stages of this project. I'm at the think about it and write down notes as inspiration bubbles up from the unconscious. And once I have enough to propel me into the map making stage, and that will also fuel kind of how the development goes. I like to, once you start drawing maps and things, that can help drive the content as well. So it's early times. That's what I would say.
That sounds cool. I can't wait to see those maps.
Yeah,
I mean, as well as the rest of it, but now you were the person who drew that illustration in one of the Red Book D&D editions that has the 3 wizards squabbling over like the rings and the wands and the treasure. And I remember you told me once that you were a Jack Vance fan from way back, and that illustration was inspired by something you'd read, I think, in one of the Dying Earth series.
Oh, just the aesthetic of the powerful wizards, yet with very human, not to say failings, but jealousies and ambitions, and that just meshed with a lot of the end of adventures where previously altruistic characters all of a sudden show a different side as the treasures are so very desirable. And those wizards, their expressions, trying to make them feel like Vancian magicians. And that's a pretty interesting, I noticed something about that illustration, which probably came out of that, which was really weird, is they all have their mouths shut, but with different expressions. And I don't remember thinking about doing that.
Oh, interesting.
When I was drawing it, but for me, it really was satisfying. There's the adjudicator, the calm one who probably has his own ambitions, and then the 2 others struggling over the staff with their mouths pursed. It's for me that makes me think a lot about Vance's magicians.
Yeah, there's always rivalry, or as Julian's essay called it, rivalry and betrayal in the Dying Earth. Yeah. I also have many fond memories of D&D as a child. I mean, like, kid and teenager, where we were always fighting over the magic items.
Yeah.
It was like a big theme of the game, trying to divvy up that pile at the end.
Right. A lot of the darker side of D&D is missing, or I thought was missing from a lot of the illustrations. Let's throw a little non-nobleness in there. Let's be real.
Yeah. No, I remember my brother always played a thief, and this neighborhood kid named Baron always played a dwarf, and my brother was always stealing Baron's axe because it was like a +1 axe. But I mostly remember Baron would always charge into the fight, and his character would reach for the axe and it would be gone. Oh. And my brother had it like in a sack. So it became a thing. But that's great. I think we're all looking forward to reading your adventure and enjoying the cover art. That's highly anticipated.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. And then the other stretch goals, it just keeps on going. We have the location guides. And I mean, you guys all had ideas for these, for the Museum of Man. Man, I'm never going to pronounce this right. Who wants to say the one that starts with a K?
Kane. Kane. You got it. It's almost like Kane, but it has a little I thing at the end, like Kane.
It's the white city of Cayenne.
Yeah.
Cayenne.
That's what I said. That's yeah.
Yeah, we're all just sitting there trying to figure it out. And John's like, it's really simple, guys.
Yeah, I know. Duh.
Only because the words are my job.
And then the one that starts with the J, maybe this one's for Jen too.
Let me get over to that. Get to the right page here. Oh, geez. J-A-N. I
mean, I can guess. There's probably only so many ways you can do it. J-A-N.
Yeah. No, you got that one. That one's fine.
Junk. Yeah. And then Ampredatvir.
Close enough.
Ampredatvir. Close enough. Okay. All right.
Jen's really good at this one though.
Oh, the Ampredatvir?
Ampredatvir.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm trying it's like Melnibone. It's not that hard, Julian.
Ampredatvir.
No, wow. I thought it was Melnibone. Another one of those words I like never say out loud.
That might be for the best.
Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. And then a pad of character sheets. I think it was the last of the stretch goals. We spent half this episode so far on stretch goals. And then if you have the box set and the adventures, what we're going towards, and as I say this, we're at $337,000, which is awesome. What we're trying to do is hit, well, bigger numbers, of course, but at 350, I want to print a second box so that all these crazy amounts of stretch goals, plus the 6 starting adventures that are part of the main pledge, will fit into that second box, and you'll actually have essentially a second box set. So we can hopefully hit 350 in the next 40 minutes or so. And then people who also include the adventures will get, I mean, now from a manufacturing perspective, I'll then have all the stretch goals and adventures manufactured inside the box. So it becomes very simple and easy to hand this over to people. And that means that we can add other stuff to the box. So the next couple stretch goals are related to other stuff in that box. So there'll be posters of selected cover artwork. And to answer some questions, we will take off like the logos and the titles and so on. So you'll just see the art in its purest form. And then also the cardstock punch out grudge tokens, which I love that idea. Julian, for some reason, I strongly associate you with grudge tokens. Is that accurate? should that be an accurate
No,
association?
you're thinking of grudges in general, I think. But it's entirely a Brunerism, I believe, as far as I know. It was given to me to play test by Mr. Bruner, and it's always gone pretty swimmingly. I think from the very first time, which I vaguely remember. I mean, I actually vividly remember it was a GaryCon, probably the last one, and Mark was like, "Oh, and grudge tokens. Here, here's a page on grudge tokens," and I was like, "Okay, yeah," and it went pretty well. They've been, I think, a fun playtest ever since. So I'm a very pro grudge token. I think grudge tokens could be the new fleeting luck. We could all be like, playing a regular DCC game and just be like, and we're gonna have grudge tokens today. That can easily happen.
Yeah. To answer one of the questions, yes, it's fine with me if people want to print poker chips once we have the art and everything. That it was actually really fun being at GaryCon and other cons, and everybody had their own sort of home manufactured luck tokens back in the day. I wanted to show you guys something. I have some. Well, the day pre-COVID seems like a long time ago. So
yeah,
that's fair.
I have the advanced copy of Greatest Thieves in Langmar. So I wanted to bring this up partly because we printed, cardstock tokens in here. And by the way, if you're watching this, please don't email us and say, "Where's my copy?" You will get your copy. This is a handful that were FedEx to me ahead of the main shipment. Every time I show something now, we get like 100 emails. They're like, "Oh, I saw it on the internet. I didn't get my copy." It's okay. You're not supposed to have it yet. Proofs. There. Yeah. Well, this isn't actually technically it's the
Masters?
real thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, advanced masters maybe. Anyway, you'll get your copies. Don't worry. This isn't advanced, but we did the cardstock luck tokens, anyway, there's a lot of stuff in the box.
Oh,
Here's the luck tokens. Actually, I should say this is what the Dying Earth box set will look kind of like. A book, more books, like just lots of stuff packed in, which will be cool. Anyway, these, if you can see them, are the cardstock luck tokens. So we'll do grudge tokens in a similar style, and you kind of pop them right out, and anyway, they're pretty cool. So we'll do some grudge tokens, get some cool artwork. Somebody can depict grudges. We'll need like 15 pictures of a grudge, whatever that looks like.
Just a picture of Julian going
scowling. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, Julian, I need headshots. Lots of headshots. And then I think that's all the stretch goals. If I got them all right, did I miss any? That was a lot.
It did, yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
I mean, we're coming up on, I don't know, we might make 350.
Yeah.
Might.
The final stretch goal, which we posted this morning, is that we would like to visit the family home of Jack Vance, which is now occupied by John Vance's son. And it was really cool. This came about for some suggestions from some of the people on this team. And it's one thing to visit, like for Langmar, we visited the University of Houston Library, which has a Fritz Leiber papers library. And, you fly there, you go to the library. It's not like you go to somebody's house, but asking John Vance to go, like, "Hey, can we crash at your house for a week to read all your dad's unpublished stuff?" seemed like vaguely inappropriate. But he was totally open to the idea. And he said, actually, they've had a number of fans do this. So this is not an open invitation to fans to drop by his house, but like people have visited in the past. And it sounds like that's how he met, Cone, who some of you guys heard speak on a recent podcast or video cast. And anyway, it's kind of amazing. So he's offered to open his house for us to look at all the stuff that he inherited from his dad. He said there's not a lot of unpublished Dying Earth stuff that he's aware of. So it's unlikely we'll find, something unpublished there, but there's a lot of notebooks and general notes and a lot of unpublished other stuff, as well as his dad's various collections of all sorts of things. so it sounds really cool, and it sounds like it could generate some really cool ideas and inspire some really cool product ideas. And so I put the number at that as a higher stretch goal because we obviously have to, none of you guys live in well, Errol does live in California, but none of the designers live in California. So there's some expense associated with flying out, and we're not going to all crash at his house. We're going to get a hotel room. That'd be really rude. But anyway, but even if we don't make that stretch goal, I kind of feel like I want to work it in somehow.
He's got a barn.
Yeah. We'll do it on the cheap.
We'll crash at your place.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody crash on my couch, and we'll drive across the bay. Yeah, we got to figure out some way to do it because it's really cool. It'd be awesome to see all the stuff,
Yeah, he was mentioning a bunch of stuff in the when we did the video stream, and just kind of the background of they're still getting all that stuff ready for archival and scanned, and that's an ongoing project that's been I guess for a while now, and just that was really enticing. I think when Jen, Bob, and I heard it, and just it sounds really fascinating. Just what you could uncover there.
Yeah,
because there were some stories like, what was it, like they were doing construction in the house, they knocked down a wall and they found something from his father posted on the
it was a manuscript page, and on the back of it said, "Please knock before entering."
They just covered up with a wall at one point.
There was another, there was a manuscript page that was written on the back of one of John Vance's school projects,
like math homework or something.
Yeah,
because paper was so precious. It wasn't just you buy a big ream for everything.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we'll be allowed to knock down walls in this house looking for manuscripts, but we could. Actually, John will be joining us here in another 15 minutes or so. Terry should drop by soon, and then John. But that's cool.
Oh, there's a statement in chat that he wants more Jack Vance books in print. And to that, I will answer, go check out jackvance.com and check out the Vance Integral Edition project that Spatterlight Press is putting together.
because everything he's written is in print through that project. And stripped back to his original words. They got rid of all the editorial changes that crept in over the years where, they broke up
all the weird
paragraphs
commas,
commas, changed words. Yeah. There's
I
also
feel like I need to reread it all in that edition. And I must have learned 100 new words from reading Dying Earth. And now I feel like I probably read the watered down version, and I'm going to learn 100 new ones from the original manuscript.
And then there's a question in the Kickstarter comments. Someone wants to confirm if they use backer kit to upgrade their pledge from the box set in print to the box set in modules, do they still get the print Kickstarter extras at that point?
Yes, we'll be manufacturing them. Yes, they will.
I will let them know.
Yeah. And then Errol, I think you said you actually have to leave at some point.
Well, yes, it's time for me to make room for a different head, I think.
Okay. All right. That's one way to say it.
Yeah.
Aren't you supposed to be writing a module right now?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it for sure.
Okay.
So it was great to be with you guys, and rock on. I think this is really fantastic that it's doing so well. And so to leave, do I just hit my X or do you kick me out, Alana?
I think Elena, be right back screen. And we're back. Some of you may have noticed that Errol Otis has transmuted into Terry Olson. So welcome, Terry.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes. And we're just counting down the final moments of the Kickstarter. So welcome back. I want to answer something in the chat. Somebody just said, I'm really tempted to add 5 of the Magician books to the black market later. Yes, I will point out the DCC books are a wise investment. So you should plan for your children's education as well as your own retirement by investing heavily in them right now before the Kickstarter ends. Anyway,
You might
welcome,
be
everybody.
joking, but the prices I've seen recently on eBay for some of the alternate covers really isn't all that funny. I've seen
It
a
is kinda
demon cover
crazy.
for $800.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Wow. That
Uh,
is crazy.
I saw an Easily for $350. Yeah,
There was a Purple Planet box for over 500.
Joseph's like, let me check my back stock.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, it's not worth that much. Like sooner or later, we're going
Who's
to
this new eBay seller? Goodman Games.
That's my
Yeah.
brother. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Actually,
Yeah,
that's why it was
crazy.
so cool when the at Gen Con, when there was those few copies of the Easily cover that were found
They
in
literally turned
the
up in
warehouse,
the
and
loose
people got to buy them
warehouses.
at retail. That was so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
remember like
there's-
5 people texting me saying, pick this up for me. Like,
Yeah.
dude, they're gone.
No, lately we had people repping us at cons for a long time. And 2020, obviously the con scene dissolved, and 2021 it's starting to come back. But a lot of the con reps, we had them ship back the stock because they obviously wouldn't need it for a while. And yeah, a lot of stuff has turned up in that, which has been kind of fun. All right, so Terry, how's your day going?
Are we on the air?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, my day's great.
everything's great, huh?
In its own
You've just been
way.
standing up geeks all day and thinking about curses and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Probably
I
having-
plenty of curses. I've been thinking of plenty of curses. Yeah.
And you don't even play a witch, Terry.
That may change.
Yeah.
So guys,
What an
while we're
exciting-
here, go ahead. No, go ahead, Terry.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's been so exciting watching this Kickstarter just blast. What a cool experience. I don't have the webpage open now, but where are we at right now?
$339,739 with
Ah.
3,266 backers and 82 minutes to go.
Nice.
No, it has been impressive. Like, there's a lot of interest in Jack Vance's work, which is clear, which is awesome. I also think, frankly, the DCC Lankmar team gets some credit because they did a terrific job. Some of they are on this call or on the screen, but I think people have confidence in what we're going to do because Lankmar turned out so great, and so I think a lot of people they know what they're going to get. Different
Yeah.
author, different setting, but they know the quality level.
Yeah.
Well, and it's been neat going through the Kickstarter comments. There's people that have never played Dungeon Crawl Classics, but they're huge Vance fans. And they're like, hey, I heard about this. I've got to back this and try this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when we throw them over to the website and say, check out these demo games that are going on.
Yeah, the demo games went great. They actually all filled up. Then we had to add a second round, and then we could have added more if we had enough people to run games. But Zoom, in a weird way, has changed the way I think about these things. Like, it's easy to run Zoom demos and stuff. In the old days, I think in terms of, you got to go to the con, but Zoom's great for running demos.
Thank you so much to Brendan for all
Yes, Brendan, and I
running
know
all those demo
Micah.
games and- yeah.
Micah was one of the judges for it. Yeah.
Micah.
And Brad Keller.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah, all
Yeah.
3 of them, they ran a ton of demos after they got trained by the best.
I was gonna say, thanks to the trainer.
The superlative mentor in this particular case.
Was that Terry?
No.
Oh, it must have been Mark.
No.
There's a question in the chat too. So at the group, what were you guys expecting as far as numbers for the Dying Earth Kickstarter before the day 1 launch?
I mean, you.
Oh, go ahead, Joseph. No, you.
No, you go first. I don't want to taint the answers with my opinion.
This kind of weaves into your last statement about the Lankmar Kickstarter. because I was so impressed by that project and so impressed by the authorship and the craft that went into it, and looking at their Kickstarter and say, I was like, if we get half that much, then I would be supremely happy. And it just blew me away that I think you're right. We built on that success, and people recognize the that product, and also just the especially from Jack Vance. So I was really kind of in that ballpark, and that's why when we got to that like second day, it was just amazing.
When we were out of stretch goals on day 2.
Yeah,
that did happen fast. Yes.
I think that sort of reflects the kind of numbers we expected, right? I don't think we expected to be out of stretch goals on day 2.
I'm generally a very pessimistic person. So Joseph, you probably had many grand expectations from the beginning. I would have been happy if we just like, got through those first stretch goals and gotten to do the extra work. But
yeah, honestly, you never know. We've had projects that surprise us in both directions. I actually thought the shelf file Kickstarter, which I think is a great idea because I have a bookshelf that's a disorganized mess. I thought that would have more backers, but apparently not. But this one, there's a lot of people who love Jack Vance, like DCC, have confidence in the product. And I think you guys did a fabulous job speaking about it and running demos and running play tests and so on. I mean, it's been 4 years, I want to say 3 years, 4 years, something like that. It's been a while. It would have been less, but 2020 happened and so on. But I think you guys did a great job of setting that, groundwork of giving people an idea of what they could expect,
It's interesting.
And then of course, I was gonna say, and Julian trained the demo games. It was probably some of those demo games that pushed him over the edge.
Yeah,
Probably.
undoubtedly. Yeah.
And now we have the demo games for DCC itself that Brendan is still running on a regular basis. And I think that'll be really helpful for a lot of the current backers who don't know DCC at all.
Actually, that's a great reminder. If you're new to DCC, check our website every Sunday because there's a sign up list for the DCC demo that happens the following week on Zoom. Every Sunday, we put out the sign up for the next week, and it's free. You just log into Zoom at a certain time and play some DCC, and it's designed for introductory new players. So we go slow, we teach you the rules as we go, and it's not broadcast anywhere, nor is it recorded. You can ask as many silly questions as you like in a very safe environment. So yeah, good reminder, Jen.
One of the things that was surprising to me is just from, conversations with people at cons, when we talk about influential authors or appendix and fiction or stuff we like to read, people generally would sort of gravitate to Leiber, Lovecraft, and REH. It's rare that I'd be talking to someone and Vance would come up as an initial author in sort of that type of context. And I had this perception that maybe Vance was more of an acquired taste compared to these other authors, and either that was completely wrong, or people are willing to give Vance a try based on this. Whatever the answer is, I mean, I'm happy with the outcome, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, in the Twitch chat, Chun the Unavoidable has a posse. I've seen 5 massive Chun fans. So words I never thought I'd say, right? Chun has a posse.
Yeah. Well, it's unavoidable, right?
Yes. Well, and Vance was just so foundational to D&D, and people don't always think about that. I mean, before I'd ever read Jack Vance, I'd heard the term Vancian magic. I just had no context. And once I found Jack Vance, I had context and a lot of reading to do.
Yeah.
A lot of reading to do.
I was just reminded that I had not posted a Kickstarter update letting people know that we were live, so I will do that. Do that now.
So if you guys had to pick one Vancian movie, what would it be? I'm gonna go first. I would say Ralph Bakshi's Wizards. So none of you guys can take that.
Don't you say that for everything, though? I feel like I've heard you talk about that movie so many times.
But it's worth talking about so many times. Terry, you're like me. You saw that in the theater, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just if Elena could change my name to Terry Olson so I can have the same answer. Not happening, got it. Okay.
So actually, we talked about this on Keep on Crawling with Mike and Brendan, and because they always do their media segment, right? And we kicked a few things around, but I think Mike suggested correctly that The Usual Suspects is a good one in terms of the sort of reversals of fortune and the sort of overall coolness of it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was also, and I think I threw out the Maltese Falcon along the same lines, where there's a lot of Wayfarer luck spending in that one.
There's a lot of backstabbing in that one, yeah.
Yeah. There's some luck stealing and all that good stuff. So those are the two that I remember getting kicked around.
I'm gonna just build on that and say the good and the bad and the ugly, and you could just it's a wilderness setting. You've got sort of the comedic character with Tuco, and these kind of
Angel eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made the suggestion originally that it was that where a lot of my mind went was sort of sci-fi swords and sorcery, but there is this sort of like element of backstabbing that a lot of like noir has a feeling for as well. So
yeah, good, bad, and the ugly is a great call.
Sorry to interrupt. We actually have one more special guest about to join us, so we're gonna have to pause this conversation for just a sec, and we will be right back. Hi, everybody. We're back. And as you may have seen, we have multiplied. So allow me to introduce the latest addition to our cast, Mr. John Vance. Hey, John, welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be
And for
here.
those of you who can't figure out the obvious, John Vance is the son of Jack and Norma Vance. And for those of you who read the announcement this morning about the final stretch goal for this project, just to say it, John is sitting in the house that we will be hopefully visiting. And John, maybe tell us a little bit about your house and all the amazing stuff that's in it.
Well, golly, I hardly know where to start. I guess I could go back to the beginning when my parents moved here in 1954. They had 5 cats, and they were looking for a place where the cats would be safe. Maybe there was something else that attracted them to this piece of property. I don't know, but that was the story I always heard. But we live in the Oakland Hills. It's fairly steep around here. We used to be surrounded by eucalyptus trees. Those have been gradually coming down. But the place was it was kind of a shack, really, when Mom and Dad moved in here. And my dad was working as a carpenter at the time. And, among other things, always staying busy. And he just started, building a new house kind of around the outside of the old house. And in fact, he used to joke that he threw the old house out through the windows of the new house. It was probably true, actually, knowing my dad. But anyway, yeah, it's a kind of a big sort of a rambling place. It's full of little bits of this and that my parents collected when they were traveling. Either my dad or I built pretty much everything in this place. So it's very personal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's comfortable, but it's dusty, and it's drafty, and it's in an earthquake zone. I could go on that way too. But anyway, it's comfortable. It's comfortable.
There's cats.
There's cats. There's how many cats we have? We have four cats right now. And a
You
dog.
lost count.
Well, I'm not going to say fortunately the number's going down. We
feel that. Yeah, we get it.
you understand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't have cats, but I have 2 dogs, and one of them is 18 years old. So it's just a matter of time, but he's still trucking along somehow. He's half blind and half deaf and, has all these issues, but he still gets up and goes for a walk every day.
He's
Life
got
is
all
good.
sorts of corruption, right?
There you go. One of them is dog dandruff, which I never encountered before, but yeah, he's definitely got corruption. Well, and John, you mentioned, so I'd asked John, it felt weird, for the Lankmar project, we visited the University of Houston and went to the Fritz Library, but it felt weird asking you to crash at your house, so thank you for being so generous, because it was kind of a different kind of ask. And you mentioned it's just filled with your dad's, not so much unpublished manuscripts, but just all sorts of notes and notebooks and records and things like that.
Yes, at this point, there was a period when I would continue to find boxes of stuff that I didn't know existed in remote, recesses of the house and in the cabinets and between the floors and all this crazy stuff. But I think I know where everything is at this point. And so now it's all in boxes. There's the unpublished material is stuff I think that my dad really never would have wanted to have published because it was from his youth. And he I think I mentioned before that he never reread his stuff. And it could be that if he had gone back and read some of his youthful materials that he might not have hated it. But since he never reread anything, he just didn't want anybody to ever see his callow, youthful maunderings, whatever you might call those things. But yeah, so there's some poetry. I think the most fascinating stuff that's the most relevant to readers of his work, his published work, would just be notebooks full of names and experimental names. We've got these lovely old folders, with kind of yellowed lined paper in there with my dad's fountain pen, writings in there, but some kind of familiar names, and then lots of them that aren't familiar anyway, the notebooks are fun.
Gamers
also,
love names, like a book of
for his
fancy names. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Some of them are,
Yeah.
wildly impractical, I'm sure. Too many syllables or something. But he also has a scrapbook that he was very, very dear to him. I think he put it together probably in the years before he was married. And it's full of all kinds of, newspaper clippings and little bits of verse that he put together, and, just pictures of this and that. And so anyway, yeah, we do have some things. They're not really publishable. I don't think we would ever publish the poetry, just because I know my dad didn't want it to be published. But anyway, you guys can take a look at it and see what you think. And
Yeah, and I think even just reading it might inspire some idea for a gaming encounter or an adventure. It's not necessarily that you'd publish that particular work, but who knows? These guys are all creative. Who knows what will cook up in their minds when they, take a look at that stuff.
fantastic. Yeah, cool. Good.
John, I'd be curious, was there a poet he particularly liked, or outside of, say, Shakespeare or something really obvious?
I'm afraid that I just am not. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there were some, but his taste did evolve. As he grew older, and so I don't have any names to share with you. And later in life, he never mentioned any names. Yeah. His personality evolved quite a bit from his childhood through his youth, and he became more and more mellow. Thank goodness, as the years went by. He could be very emphatic, and he didn't automatically inspire people to love him. He would pretty much ask pointed questions and inquire as to people's deeply held beliefs, and then either agree fervently or tell them that they were idiots, for believing what they believe. And forgive me for being so candid here, but at least he was honest.
Yeah. I'm going to pause for a minute to answer a question from the chat stream. Yes, retailers do qualify for the stretch goals. And no, actually, we have not put a retailer price in the Magician cover. That's a great question. We will try to handle that at some point. A good question.
So should they go ahead and pledge now, and then maybe you guys work out the difference?
That's a reasonable suggestion. Yeah.
Better question. These people that have pledged $1 and they plan on upping it when the pledge manager and backer kit phase happens, can we retroactively add that to our total for this last stretch goal? Please, 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 please.
I think the question got too complicated for me. And so you pledge for $1. What do you want to add to that?
When the pledge manager hits and they raise everything to get to be like print plus, will that add to the grand total of the Kickstarter?
Oh, count towards the stretch goals.
Revenue?
Unfortunately, no, because I have to commit to the print run long before that activity will happen. Sorry. Sorry to disappoint.
That's an unhappy Jen right there.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. And then I know that Mark and I both have to go put our kids to bed. Separate sets of kids, not together. But shortly.
No judgment.
Awkward.
Yes.
You could swap at some point, Joseph. We could try. Come down.
It's not a TV show. Yeah.
Can I stay up just 5 more minutes?
Sorry.
I think you ate a lot of sugar today, Terry. It's time to go to bed. So, I want to answer one more question from the chat before we're going to drop out. Everybody else can hang out for a while. Then I think we'll try to come back in 45 minutes or so. Somebody else asked in the chat a while back, what is the what adventure will be in the back of the Magician cover core rulebook? Will it have, Portal into the Stars? And yes, it will have Portal into the Stars. That's like the starter adventure that's in all of them. But for the next printing, Michael Curtis has actually written a new adventure that'll go into the back. And it's called Keep Off the Borderlands. So that will be the new adventure that'll be in the next printing. So that will appear in the Magician cover printing.
Does it have an old dude with a shotgun on a porch?
A magical shotgun.
Yeah.
Julian going like this.
Yeah. Like taking a lot of shots at squirrels. Keep off my borderland. Okay. So John, thank you for coming by. I'm going to drop off and you guys are welcome to hang out, and then I'll be back in a little bit, hopefully with cleaner children, and and you guys stay as long as you like.
All right, great.
And we're back again. Can you hear us this time?
Are we pulling a Mike and Brendan again?
Can we be heard? Yes, we can be heard.
Yay!
Yes.
Yay. Well, we've lost Joseph, and I think Julian wants to start creating stretch goals while the boss is away.
Well, I was
tell you
thinking
what,
something fairly small time, like, for every 1,000 we hit, you'll just kind of keep going. For every 1,000, I'll just do another finger of scotch. I know it's not the most exciting.
Well, we can all do a finger of scotch, I think. Yeah, that might not be exciting for them, but considering we're at 344, it could get real exciting.
You could play along at home. You know,
Less
there's no,
work for me in the long run. I don't have
So-
to edit anything.
So the next stretch goal then is potential toxic alcohol shock, is what you're saying, Julian.
All right, so Julian doesn't get to go to Oakley.
so everybody use your pinky finger. That's, you know, we're gonna try to keep, you know, there are like a Jim Sketch pinky is probably size for him. And
Man, we lose the Dark Master and it all goes to hell.
Yeah, well, anyway, don't sue us. Don't sue us. Drink responsibly and only in your own home. That's all.
And only if you're, you know, with the right crowd or of the same age or, you know, blah, 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 blah. Be safe. Don't be stupid.
Indeed.
Yeah. And go pledge. My goodness. I mean, who's in for at least one hardcover? Come on. At least. Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for John that hopefully the Sanctum crew didn't already ask, and that I'm not being horribly redundant. But John, if you guys were in the Oakland area in the 50s and 60s, did, you know, your dad wasn't so far away from where Clark Ashton Smith was bouncing around. Was there any crossover between those two? Any correspondence?
I don't know about correspondence. We'd have to go. I somehow don't think that we have any correspondence with Smith, and I don't believe that they actually met. I never heard him mentioned. So I think the answer to that is no.
Okay.
Sadly. Yeah.
That would have been an interesting conversation between those two, it seems like.
Yeah.
And we have a question from the chat. Mr. Vance, I missed your initial show. Growing up, were you aware of your father's influence, the influence that his work had?
No, I was just a kid bouncing around here. That awareness didn't really come to me for quite a long time. I had to read his stories and then, you know, start, you know, meeting people that came over to the house and get into conversations. And yeah, so it came to me rather slowly, and it was, I think it may be that Dad might have felt a little overshadowed by some of his you know, the success of, for instance, Frank Herbert, and I'm not sure he even was aware. Okay, I'm not expressing this very well. I think his influence might have been more kind of systemic, you know, and not, I don't think people were always talking about Dad's work, but that it was influencing, you know, readers and authors to be nonetheless. That was Dad. But yeah, no, as far as I went, yeah, I was just a kid. Yeah, it all seemed very normal to me.
I can't even imagine. I mean, from my perspective, you know, just looking at that body of work, it's so influential from the moment that I found it, and so seeing the inside view and growing up with it, and that perspective it's hard to wrap my brain around, but I get it.
Well, I can give you a little seeing as we have a minute or two here. So, you know, that life was kind of about making ends meet for you know, the family, and my mom would have an office job, and my dad worked as a carpenter until I think the early mid 70s, at which point he started writing full time. But the folks would come home, and my dad would take a bath, and he'd slap on some aftershave. He liked lilac vegetal and bay rum. Those were his 2 cents for all of you aftershave users out there, which I'm sure there are not many. And put on a nice terry cloth, you know, bathrobe, and then he'd prop his foot up. He'd sit back in some of these big chairs, which we still have around here, and put his feet up on a footstool, and often with a little glass of wine at his, you know, side there, or a highball, you know, some, and he would write, and he would write into the night. So that was a very familiar aspect of things around here. Was Dad with his clipboard? He wrote, as we mentioned before, he wrote until the early '80s longhand on a clipboard on just funny, scrappy pieces of paper. Very often he used fountain pens, different color inks, and he loved to. Well, let's just say it was a habit of his to doodle in the margins a lot. So his manuscripts, have these lovely ornate, spidery web-shaped, kind of graceful shapes and things on them in different color inks. So that was, and then that was the writing. Dad over there with his clipboard. He took that. He could write anywhere, and I think that was one of the reasons why he chose to be an author in the first place. I'm not positive about this, but I think that he was an avid traveler, and I think that he discovered that he could make enough money by writing to travel. And so what happened ultimately was that after he married my mom, and that they would travel and find a comfortable place to live where the food was good and and inexpensive. It's inexpensive to live, and they would just simply stay there for weeks or even months sometimes, and work on and Dad would write, and they would have a lovely time. And then they did that again after I was born. I was born in '61 on a couple of different trips. But
did he have favorite spots he returned to that he found more inspirational than others?
Well, no, Dad. We did go back. Well, of course, Europe. I mean, just and we did. We spent a winter on Loch Corrib in County Galway in Ireland, and it was a full 6 months there, and that was always a place that we had a very sentimental attachment to, because it was just such a lovely, picturesque place and time. So we did go back there a second time. In fact, I went over there. My parents thought that that maybe I'd enjoy going over there and staying with the family that sort of hosted us. They were our landlords, essentially. There's a family over there. I went, I think when I was about 11 years old, I went over there by myself for a few weeks. But anyway, short answer, no, not really. He just covered a lot of ground. They wanted to see new places, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And thinking about that, we have a question that was, what kind of research, if any, was lying around? Was his writing space filled with stuff? Was everything just spun from his mind?
Most of it came out of the old noggin up there. Yeah, he interestingly, referring back to the travels, those provided the inspiration or the background material, I think, that he used for most of his murder mysteries. So you would see that more in his murder mysteries, because one is, Kuhn mentioned this in our last thing there, that one of them set in Portofino, or no, actually in Positano, and another one is set in the South Pacific, and another one is set in North Africa, Algeria. So anyway, yeah, they traveled to these places and picked up, impressions and I don't know. I've often wondered how Dad could ever imagine so much stuff, and I just think he had a great memory, and I think that he remembered very vividly people's faces and like and their mannerisms. I don't think that he just synthesized those things from scratch, although maybe it's possible. I don't understand the creative process that well myself. I'm not especially when it comes to writing. I'm not especially creative myself that way. But yeah. So anyway, the research would be travel, and then the rest. I think he dredged a lot out of his head from his youth and his reading of other authors, and then his imaginative development from those readings in his youth. And I think he just had he had a lot of things in his head from from his younger years that he then pulled out and morphed later on.
Well, and that sort of dovetails into another question we've got here. The question was your father a reader of other strange fiction folks like Algernon Blackwood? Or, who did your dad read?
Well, sadly, I'm not going to be able to answer that very effectively. I think Kuhn mentioned well, there was Weird Tales and some of the very older authors from the period of his childhood. He didn't read any of his contemporaries. He was a very stubborn guy and kind of proud in his own odd way. But he wanted to be he didn't want to be derivative. He wasn't looking for inspiration from anybody else. He I think if he had felt like he'd been identifiably influenced by somebody else, that he would have been embarrassed by that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one way to keep the IP clean.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Did he ever practice dialogue on you, or did you ever hear him, saying stuff out loud to see if the words made sense? No.
No, not at all. But I would hear him chuckling every now and then when he was, writing some episode involving poor Kugel, Kugel leaving town once again under a cloud. He had a lot of fun with Kugel. No, he never read out loud at all.
As far as, and again, sorry, Secorum crew, if I'm stepping
Dude.
on stuff you already,
Oh,
but I'm like gushing.
right?
So, speaking of Kugel and any of the other protagonists, did he have anyone in mind? Like Leiber had sometimes particular people in mind that characters were modeled off of. Since he met all these people, were there folks that he wrote in directly that you know of, or are they just all amalgamations of people?
So I feel like I'm discussing, Dad would never talk about his writing. Somebody would say, Mr. Vance, how do you come up with these ideas? Or question, similar questions, and he'd be like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. But I think the truth of it was that if he had spoken the ways that he wrote, it just would have all sounded so trivial and so inconsequential that it would have been a real letdown, kind of an anticlimax. But so I feel a little funny talking about these things because I know that if you're here, Dad, just these are nice people and they're all interested. So no. So
don't ensqualm me, please.
Right. No, there was no individual that I know of. I have a feeling that there were probably some old bosses that he had, that served as inspiration for, some of those acerbic, gruff, arbitrary taskmasters that Vancian characters find themselves, trying to satisfy, in a lot of his stories. But I don't think there was anybody that you could really put a name to. And I asked him one time about some of the stuff, and he said it's fiction. My dad was not particularly athletic. He didn't like to climb mountains or jump out of airplanes or do anything too adrenaline oriented. So he was an author. He just made these things up, and I think that he had a idea for what would be appealing to the readers. And so he was trying to reach particular audiences and score basically with good sales by developing particular styles of protagonists with certain qualities. I guess that's the short answer right there.
No, he wasn't into athletics or things of risk, but he really enjoyed sailing, right?
Well, under ordinary circumstances, sailing is not not dangerous.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that with ellipses.
Understood. Yes, he did. He had a dream that he would like to sail to the South Pacific, and I think that he may have first become aware of boats when he was in college. I think there was a gal that he was pretty fond of, and her father, I think, was like Commodore of a yacht club or something like that. So Dad probably realized that wow, boats are something pretty neat, but he then was in the Merchant Marine during the Second World War, and spent a lot of days and nights just chugging back and forth across the Pacific on a Liberty ship. And so he saw the blue water and just the sort of idyllic conditions in the South Pacific. And so he just wanted to go back there in a little sailboat at some point, and actually started building a trimaran in our front yard here. We've got some lovely pictures of the center hull of a trimaran, a 32-foot Piver design,
nice.
being built in our driveway down there. This completely out of place thing, Here's this funny house with all these eucalyptus trees around. There's this boat hull, in our front yard. But when Piver went missing on some kind of a passage aboard one of his own designs, Dad decided that particular design was a little too small, and he wanted something a little bit bigger. So he sold the hull in his work to date to some guy who never paid us, but he kept the dream, and he was always talking rhapsodically with my cousin. I have a cousin who, in fact, was inspired by my dad's dreams about sailing to do it himself. So my cousin Stephen actually went around the world on a Cal 227, a 27-foot boat with his wife, and they took 7 years. This was they probably started in the late 70s and came back in the 80s. But they had an absolutely splendid time, of course, and they would hole up in some place for a while and get a job and make some money, or they'd fly back home and make some money and then go back and keep on going. The world was a different place then, and it was and I don't think they ever felt unwelcome anywhere, and they traveled all over the place and poked into some pretty remote areas. And then we had a string of boats. My dad got me a little 17-foot sailboat for my 16th birthday, which I basically taught myself to sail on in San Francisco Bay. And then we had a couple of boats after that. The final one was meant for us to sail to the South Pacific. And in fact, when I graduated from high school, I didn't start college right away because we were setting up the boat and making all these preparations to actually go to the South Pacific. But the truth of the matter was that we could never afford it. And so we sold the boat, sold the boats and carried on with the rest of our lives. And that was just one dream that never came to fruition for my dad.
Now, I do have a question from the Twitch feed here. Somebody's asking if there was any art or artists related to your dad's work that you thought was particularly memorable. A cover or something.
Well, I'm sure the answer is yes, but I wouldn't know the names of. I think Kuhn mentioned Fabian last time we chatted. There's been. So I'm sorry, I can't put any names to anybody. Dad, oh my gosh, there was an artist who, the name's not going to come to me. I just don't have a mind for these things. But there was an artist who illustrated some Poe and there's some very Gothic, dark, black and white kind of line ink drawings. I won't remember the names, but I know the dad was impressed by. Short answer is I don't know the answer. Sorry.
Let's see here.
Nothing wrong with that.
And as an update, we're at $346,049 with 3,310 backers with 32 minutes left.
Awesome.
This has been amazing on our end. You know, I've got to ask, with the amount of support that this Kickstarter is getting for the game based on your dad's work, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very encouraging, and I have to say, you know, for what it's worth, you know, thank you to everybody who's getting involved and you know, putting their money where their passions lie. It's very, very good to know that Dad has support out there, because I mean, it's not to say that Dad never sold any books or anything like that, because he did. You know, he was reasonably successful and he reached a lot of people, but he always hoped for you know, something a little bit more. I don't think that he was eager to be famous or you know, or even superbly wealthy, although he wouldn't have turned it down. But there was always an element of kind of just getting by around here, and I think that he would have enjoyed kind of not having that feeling. But no, it's lovely to know that we, you know, that people appreciate his work enough to you know, make it real and make things like this happen. And it's encouraging because of course, I mean, our goal remains to you know, our personal goal remains to see Dad's work reach even more people, because it's quality. You know, there's a lot of good stuff there, and it's, I mean, I suppose if he had a kind of a moment of, you know, fame, or where lots of people knew about his work and lots of people had read his work, and then they had turned away from him and moved on, that would be one thing, and we could go home, you know, and having you know, given it our best shot. But the thing is, the Dad's never been there. I just always, when it comes right down to it, I always feel that there's a huge amount of utterly splendid entertainment and wonderful stories that so many people would enjoy if they could just peel back all the years. You know, that's the thing. There's a lot of other good work that gets produced when an author stops producing, and an older author like my dad, who hasn't put anything new out for decades, and you know, with the passage of years, there's all this overburden now of newer work that is also good. You know, there's good and there's bad, but there's good work that's out there being produced even right now. So it gets harder and harder as an older author's work gets farther and farther astern, if you will. But anyway, so, you know, hopes are high that we'll still manage to break through and expose, you know, some of that wonderful stuff there. So much humor and so much creativity, and I don't know, there's values in there too. I don't think Dad ever wrote in order to show his values, or to demonstrate them, or try to, you know, make people subscribe to his values. But there's just some simple, honest, you know, kind of slightly old-fashioned these days, maybe, you know, values in there about just, you know, what it means to be good, what it means to be bad, you know, and how you can help people, how you hurt people. And I know these things don't seem obvious when you read Dad's books, but in the background there is often some justice, and so that keeps the work sort of, because he didn't weave a whole bunch of current event type,
Right.
themes, in there. I don't know if the right word would be topical. I mean, I don't think his work, I'm probably misusing the word, but yeah. So basically, they're just kind of yarns that they're just as good now as they were back then. And anyway, it's nice to know that people are still know about him and want to support him. And I'm just hoping that it'll break through one of these days, and we can grow that number. That'd be wonderful.
Well, and we've certainly seen a reaction. I mean, here in the chat, we've got someone who mentions they read Dying Earth books thanks to DCC, passed them on to their group, and they're all obsessed with Dying Earth. We've had people in the Kickstarter comments ask, I haven't read Dying Earth, where should I start? What should I start with? And thanks to the conversation we had with you, we could say, well, you want to start with the Vance Integral Edition. And, if you're used to older fiction, just start at the beginning. If you're not, maybe start with the first Kugel story. But there's been so many people in the Kickstarter that not only want to read your dad's work, but they really want, as close as possible to the original. And so it's been really nice learning about the Vance
VIE,
Edition and being able to point them in that direction.
And I just love the cross-pollination and the synergy of the two products together. And yeah, I can't wait to get these stretch goals out and, move to phase 2. There was a look of fear on Julian's face when I said that. Terry was like, yeah, let's do it.
That's
Julian's
a lot
like,
of writing. That is a lot of writing. But we're up to it. We are up to it.
oh
Indeed.
man.
I would throw out there. I know that everything that we talk about here in this venue is basically centered around the Dying Earth, and that's fantastic. It's marvelous. It really is in a lot of ways the sort of crown jewel in Dad's his production is. But there's a lot of really fun stuff in the sci-fi side of things as well. And so don't be shy about picking up books in the Durdain sequence or Shea, Planet of Adventure. Those are superb adventures. And Amphirio is an outstanding book. We've already talked about The Last Castle. I know Bob's in there.
Oh, yes.
yeah,
I am
Last
so
Castle.
in for The Last Castle.
Oh, that was episode 2 for the Sanctum Secorum podcast.
Yes, when we did our when we
That
started
was
our
my first
podcast, that was our
choice.
second episode. We did that.
Yeah.
We did that story. And it's such a favorite of mine. It really is.
Well, folks, I think we're gonna put you guys on hold for just a few minutes. We're gonna do some more personality swaps, and we'll get back to you in time for the closing of this Kickstarter. So
I'm going to say goodbye to everybody because
yeah.
I'll be one of the disappearing folks. Thank you, backers. It's been super duper
good to
fun.
have you here.
Thank you, Terry.
And
Nice meeting you, Terry.
yes,
Yeah, nice meeting you, John.
Come on.
Hey guys.
Hello again.
Boss is back.
Back.
My kids are a lot cleaner. Actually, my last night my 3-year-old refused to take a bath, so I told him, "What if we gave you an upside down reverse bath?" So I got a bunch of dirt and I rubbed dirt all over him. And he thought that was hilarious. So then he agreed to get in the bath because he was like covered in dirt. Unfortunately, the dirt didn't drain from the bath. Apparently,
No.
bathtubs aren't meant to get off that much dirt. So now I just gave him a bath. There's like dirt all over the bottom of the bathtub. So my older kid was like, "I want to take a shower. I don't want to get in there with all that dirt." I was like, "It's on the bottom. I won't get on you." So, but after this, I have to
Jeez,
go back and like, shower out my tub. So yeah.
Yeah, cats are so much easier.
Yeah. Probably. Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? There was a question that we went through last Sunday, and we didn't have Joseph for the question. Joseph, what is your favorite Dying Earth story?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's good. I actually just reread. Do I have it on my shelf? I reread the first one, The Dying Earth, and I have like an edition published in the. Actually, now that I know more about this, John, it's probably one where they took out all the fancy words. There were still lots of fancy words, but it was from the maybe 50s or 60s. It's on my shelf over there somewhere. I'm gonna blank on the names, but it's like one of the opening stories where the wizard puts his rival in the. It starts off as a square, and then it becomes a pentagon, and then he goes to like a hexagon, and he's trying to constantly outrun the miniature dragon / lizard. Is that Turgeon?
Turgeon and Mazarian.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably because that's the first one I ever read way back when, but it's always kind of struck with me as, I don't know, partly because it's just a fun story, partly because it's so Dying Earth in the way they interact. Like you have rival wizards trying to extort knowledge from each other, you know, and locking each other in a cage with a dragon. And it's like a prolonged torture. It's not just killing him. It's like he's constantly, you know, wheezing and running out of breath, and the dragon rounds the corner. And I've always liked that one.
Yeah.
I'm curious, with everyone watching, I'm curious what some of their favorite Dying Earth stories are. As we are rapidly closing in on that 350. We're at 348 and climbing, folks. Let's get that
tell us in
second
the
box.
chat.
Oh, and no Game Hall Con this year for us. No cons at all for 2021 because we didn't know where things were going to stand. And I know this has been said verbatim, so I'm trying to just get this over with. We'll see you in 2022.
Yeah, the con scene this year was highly speculative because nobody knew at the time we had to sign up or make decisions, which was several months ago. I mean, it's like everything in the last year. Who knows what it's going to be like in 6 months or 3 months or whatever. And honestly, there's parts of the country right now that where, you know, I would have felt perhaps safe because I have to send a crew to rep us at a con and run games and so on. And I don't want to, you know, have them taking risks. And there's places now where it's back to taking a risk, I think. And I hope everything's fine in a couple months because the con season really starts again in October with, you know, between Gen Con and Origins and Game Hole. Suddenly there's a lot of cons backloaded in the year. But I just want to, anyway, we want to keep everybody safe. So, but next year, hopefully it's all behind us and we plan to be at GaryCon and Gen Con and Origins and Game Hole and PAX Unplugged and any others that I'm forgetting.
I'll be at Game Hole Con, damn it. Hell or high water.
I'll be at Gen Con.
Guys, have fun. Tell us how it is.
Bob's going to be there in more of a different capacity.
I'm working.
My very first games at Gen Con ever, and I've been going since 2003. So, yay! I'll be running Lankmar, of course, just because I know it off the top of my head. I'll run Dying.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, there's no performing, there's no booth work, so it'll just be me at the game table. I'm kind of sad about that because I really love working the booth. There's something in my blood about it.
Yeah, she loves working your booth, not ours. She loves working your booth.
Exactly.
Well, next year we're gonna have to change that phrase to work the ziggurat because Wayne is hard at work at the ziggurat, and if things go well, I also have to get bigger booths at all the cons in order to fit the ziggurat. And John, I don't know if we ever showed you our setup for the cons, but there's a fellow named Wayne who's like a really skilled, he's an artist and sort of, I guess, amateur carpenter, but like he's good at carpentry in the sense he can make cool things. So he made us we had me to make the gong, but he made a gigantic stand to hold a huge gong. So when we run games that are tournaments, we bang the gong every time a player dies. And then he built these two huge like obelisks that we put at the front of the booth now. And they have like bookshelves built in, so they're functional too, not just for decorative purposes. And now I was like, we need a ziggurat, and he's like, I can do it. So he's building a ziggurat that's, I want to say 20 by 20 floor plan. The inside will be like sort of storage facilities for, like we always have extra books and stock for the Sunday sale or whatever. So, we'll store the stuff inside, and then the sides actually have built. The idea was, he's discovering that execution is different from visualizing, but the idea was there'd be bookshelves on the sides. You could actually buy books off the ziggurat, because that'd be like the sides of our booth. And then we had this really cool idea. A couple of the guys in this group, so Dieter's in a band, obviously Bob's in a group. Originally we had this idea that we would actually have I don't know if I told you this, Bob, but we're going to have a band playing at the top of the ziggurat during the cons.
Oh no, I hadn't heard that. Boy, Gen Con's gonna hate you.
Yeah, certain logistical and insurance related complications. So
it'd be worth it just to see the look on the guys' faces from Paizo, though.
Yes. So now, but Gwen had this idea to actually kind of build puppets. Actually, I have it here. I have you got the same thing in the mail recently. I have the French edition of Sailors on the Starless Sea, but to have like that ziggurat scene, and then actually build little puppets of like, this guy fighting this guy. So like when you look up at it, because I think it's 12 feet long, I think was like the limit under Gen Con rules for under their ziggurat height policy. But but we're gonna have, like, if you look up at the angle, it's sort of
The silhouettes, maybe.
or maybe the silhouettes. Yeah, something that when you look up, you're like, whoa, and it looks like a battle scene at the top. So all that's.
I'll sit inside the ziggurat and work a puppet.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I know. Maybe we'll run games out of the ziggurat. Actually, maybe that's what we should do. But then we don't have anywhere to put the storage stuff. Anyway, but hopefully when we come back next year, it's going to be really awesome and a fitting return to the con scene.
Awesome.
And in answer to our question about favorite stories, we've got, I really enjoyed the one with the Emperor Datvir. Of course, Chin the Unavoidable still has a posse. The Kugel stories. Someone's commented their favorite Dying Earth story is the one they just finished, always.
Yeah.
And so many people that are saying this has been their introduction, and they're really enjoying reading Jack Vance, The Dying Earth, and they're looking forward to reading more.
Fantastic.
So
I
love
like
that synergy.
I have my wife bought me this vintage bookshelf or book spinner, like from the 60s, when you go into paperback novels on like a spinner, which I wish I could angle this camera to show you.
I so envy you that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I've got a ton of vintage Jack Vance novels that I picked up along the way, not all of which I've read.
You're not selling those at the booth, are you?
No, these are the ones I was like, oh, can't sell this one. And John, I don't know if you know, but at Gen Con, we used to sell vintage novels alongside the games, just because like a lot of the fans of the games are also fans of, this kind of fiction. And so actually Jen and Bob are great. We all sort of haunt used bookstores and buy up used books and resell them at Gen Con at like a small markup, but it's really just to like get them out there. But it's really fun. And plus I skim off the top. So I keep like, I'm sure you guys do. We both keep like 10% of all the books we look at, because like, oh, can't sell that. Oh, I got to read this one. This cover is awesome, Yeah. And anyway, I got a bunch here that I need to read. Oh yeah, let's bring in Mark. Mark is back. We'll be right.
again. Do we have audio?
Can you hear us?
Check, check.
Because, oh my God, we hit 350. We just unlocked the second box.
And now the chat goes quiet. There we go. There we go.
Here we go.
Woohoo!
That's another Scotch goal unlocked too. So thank you, everyone. Very nicely done.
Thank you so much to all of our friends and fans and future friends and tribe and family and yeah, stuff.
You know, some people are pointing out their shipping charges will be measured in black market human organs, and because it's going to require a skiff to deliver how much they have ordered.
There are worse things. I mean,
I think you just need, from now on, there just needs to be like the Jim Scatch level. Just 3 of everything. People could just jump in right away.
we can all curse your name and then be done with it, right?
Right, you know. You can call it the college fund level.
That's right. Yeah, Connor never made it to college yet. No.
Does anybody remember? We've got a question asking what Lankmar finished at. I don't remember. Was it like 187?
That sounds right. Somebody mentioned it earlier on. Yeah.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
So almost twice, not quite, but holy cow.
In a little bit, buddy. Okay. I have a visitor. He was banging at the door and insisted on seeing. Oh boy, Pierce, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi.
There you go. Say hi.
It looks
Hello.
very
Tom.
clean.
Hello.
He's very clean. Yes. No. Don't hit the keys. You want me to get you some pizza?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you wait out here? I'll get you pizza in 5 minutes, according to the Kickstarter counter. Okay. All right. We're gonna go get pizza. I'll be right back. Try to break 375 before I get.
Hey. Oh, wait. We're coming back, I think.
Do it for the children. You know, the pledge extra.
Ooh, we're back.
As you can see, the board is having a tough talk with the CEO right now, and it's
Joseph has been transformed.
Everybody's a critic.
Someone ceased praxis.
It's not a bad look.
This could
Just
get
a-
Oh, very, very badly.
Oh, but Daddy had all the earbuds and stuff. So
The mini Dark Master has arrived.
the bribe is being delivered. Mark, you live such a sheltered life.
So Mark, did you when you started working on this project, did you ever envision 350,000?
No, not in my wildest imaginings. It's really great to see all the support, you know, not just for the project, but also for Jack Vance's work. And we've seen a lot of that, you know, over the comments and the course of this. So hopefully, and like we talked about, you know, with John, you know, hope this actually reinvigorates a lot of people to, you know, access the material and get introduced to his father's work and some of the larger, you know, context of his writing, you know, beyond just the Dying Earth novels. But I'm really excited that, you know, we're able to bring this to the RPG audience and the audience of Jack Vance fans, and super excited. So
It has been a lot of fun pointing people at the Vance Integral Edition. It's just been great, the reaction those get.
yeah, and just as a personal note, today is actually one of the reasons I left was because it's my birthday, and the kids were giving me birthday presents, and one of them.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for making the sacrifice.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Best present ever.
It's a great birthday, you know, present. But one of the presents was the first edition of the Spatterlight Press, you know, volumes that I just put in my shopping cart, and my wife noticed it and, you know, had bought it for my birthday. So it was a
That's
great
awesome.
birthday present. So I got my first of my 67 volumes, you know, to collect.
You're gonna need
Well,
a
you got
bigger
your
shelf.
next.
Yeah.
You got your next 66 birthdays covered. That's
Exactly.
great.
That's what she said.
I don't know
That's
if I
awesome.
should send you the lexicon. You guys are doing enough on your own. Those Bernickianisms.
Hey now.
So yeah, happy birthday, Mark. What a present. A second box for the box set. That's what we got you collectively. We all chipped in. And
That's right.
Thank you all. Yeah, thank you.
That's right.
And I have a quick question for the team. Is it worth the wait from the time of production?
Oh yeah, no.
You guys have been working on this
absolutely.
for how long?
I think
4 years?
Joseph,
yeah,
3 years? 4,
I
something like
think
that.
in 2017, I think. Yeah, so it's been about 4 years since you approached me, and then we really got underway later, maybe 6 months after that. So it's been 4 years.
I remember that first Gen Con breakfast meeting.
Yeah, we were well along at that point, I believe.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's yeah, it seems like 10 years ago, just because so much has happened. But
I
it's been
know.
a great ride.
it has been. It's been so much fun, and it's just been great to be part of something like this.
You guys have done a great job. Like, I think the fans have spoken, and it was very positive. I mean, obviously Jack Vance's name had a lot to do with this too, but you guys executed it well, and I think people are excited to see your work. Oh man, Kickstarter's counting down the seconds now. 80 seconds left.
Oh
Well,
boy.
It's kind of amazing.
There's a big difference between having a product that's licensed by, the estate of so-and-so and actually getting the personal support of the people behind the estate. So John, thank you so much
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
people and just so open with us. It's been really awesome.
Well, thanks a lot, Jen. And I can only say again that really the thanks really come from us to you, and all of the supporters out there, because yeah, it goes both ways. We'll just put it that way. Yeah. Thank you.
And I want to say thanks to John for agreeing to even consider letting us visit his house and look at his dad's artifact. And even though we didn't hit the specific number, he was generous to, enough to make that offer. So I think we'll take you up on it.
Okay.
so yeah.
Right,
So
cool.
for the backers of the Kickstarter, we'll try to work that out one way or the other. And we will see what amazing artifacts are floating around under the floor, in the rafters, and everywhere else.
Yeah.
We'll see what it inspires.
Joseph, ixnay on the home demolition.
Yeah. Is that not appropriate behavior? I can't remember. Babe, Kickstarter's like 5, 4, 3, 2,
Wow.
1, 0 seconds. Wow. 351, 148. 3,300 backers. That's incredible. That's awesome.
That's great.
Thank you guys. Very good job, everybody on this call.
Definitely.
And I think Jen and Bob disintegrated as the Kickstarter ended.
They froze.
They were never real, folks. The truth finally comes out.
Wow. Yeah,
She said their Wi-Fi was on the fritz. That was perfect. The Wi-Fi limped along until the very last minute.
very good timing.
Yeah.
Folks, I think that I'm going to drop off here as well. And I want to thank you
Okay, everybody, we're back with stable internet connections, and we came back just to say goodbye. So thank you for your support. Thank you to everybody who watched the show, who was in the chat, who made comments on the Kickstarter, who supported the Kickstarter, who read Dying Earth books for the last 40, 50, 60 years, whatever it's been. Thanks to everybody for your support. Thanks to the people who dropped off this show already. Thanks to Terry. Who else am I forgetting? Thanks to Errol. Thanks to, yes, is that everybody? Thanks to everybody else. Thanks. Yes, John
Harley
Vance.
Brendan,
Yes. Harley Brendan, Mike
Oh, okay.
wrote some for the project. Thanks to Norma Vance for raising a great kid.
Thanks to Elena.
Yes, thanks to Elena,
Thanks, Elena.
for everything you've done
our
for the past
streams.
month. Yeah.
Yes.
including throwing us back in in the last 30 seconds here. Glad to be
Yes.
back.
But thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. We appreciate the support.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.